Hi there. I just about to run into the library. I have very little battery left, so this is going to be very quick. I just wanted to update you on the books that I had the last time I went to the library and if I ended up reading any of them. I just got back from, or I'm just coming from the climbing gym, so a little discombobulated. Here's what I ended up reading and really enjoying out of that bag of books. The Richard Wagamese, Walking the Ojibwe Path. This was the memoir in letters, but they don't really feel or read like letters. It's just Richard telling stories to his son, who he's estranged from the mother, and sharing his own life, lessons learned, and just really fascinating things about his Ojibwe roots and culture, because he didn't grow up around that. He was a foster child, and that story is heartbreaking. That was really hard for me to read, but this is a great way for me to start off with Richard Wagamese. And then I read Elsewhere by Jan Guy, if I'm pronouncing that right. And some of the stories here were really enjoyable. And then others I just skipped through because they didn't keep my attention. I remember The Little House, How I Fell in Love with the Well-Documented Life of Alex Whalen was a really cool premise of a story. And then Mother Tongue. I don't know if I'll remember any of the stories, to be honest. And then these two books, Glacier with a fantastic cover and Nothing Special. I tried these when I was away, and I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just a matter of the fact that I was reading Middlemarch and it was very plot heavy and it had a lot of propulsion to it. And then I think maybe if I kept reading this, it would have grabbed me, but it never did. And then this didn't either, but it might just be, the mood I was in. And then lastly, this thing, Caretaker. Oh, The Caretaker by Dune Arbus, who is the daughter of Diane Arbus. I remember reading Dune Arbus's debut novel as a kind of mystery. I'll say, it just kept being a mystery for me. I loved the writing in the beginning. Like, it felt old-fashioned, but it was present day, and it was about a guy who was trying to become the caretaker of a famous person and house, the Society for the Preservation of the Legacy of Dr. Charles Alexander Morgan, somehow related to the other famous Morgan. Low battery. Let me just do something about that. It was capturing me, and then by 100 pages, and this thing is not that long. I just was like, you know what? I can't anymore. This isn't. I don't require a plot, but it started to have a bit of a plot, but then there wasn't enough of the internal life of this caretaker, so it didn't have enough of either, and it just seemed to be meandering. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, the other ones I either tried and it didn't stick, or I never started, or whatever, but that's where I'm at. I have a lot of holds. But after that, I don't really have a lot of holds because I've slowed down, because I'm getting too many holds at the same time. I'm really taking advantage of the hold for later shelf that this new library database has. So that's really helping me. And I'll share with you what those holds are later when I have a chance to charge my battery. See ya. Okay, I still don't have any really juice on my camera, so I'm back from the library. I'm just going to show you real quick what I got. Chain Gang All-Stars. Am I going to read this? I don't know. I'm going to try it. It's going to be tough, though, because I just don't enjoy reading about cruelty. I mean cruelty as it's happening. Let's put it that way. I don't know. I am excited, though, about the Heaven and Earth grocery store. Trying that. James McBride. What else I got? I have a couple Eve Babitzes in here. So I'll just say that I have Hollywood's Eve. Oh, guess what? I got another Edith Wharton called Summer. Someone suggested that. I'll give it a try. I'm interested in this one. Mrs. S by Kay Patrick. In an elite all-girls English boarding school. Oh my God, that's why, yeah. Mrs. S is a sensual and sensational novel. Well, that's why I chose that, for sure. Here's another Eve. So I wanted to just pick a few Eve Babitzes to see which one that I liked. You can't, look at that foot in the high heel. I Used to Be Charming. That sounds really good to me. Oh, Silvina Ocampo. This I heard on Mooks and Gripes and Kim O'Neill. Thus Were Their Faces. Short stories, introduction by Helen Oyeyemi. I found this novel on yellow paper. This is a reproduction by New Directions, I think. A reprint. Stevie Smith. And then quickly, another one from the New Yorker, Tomb Sweeping by Alexandra Chang, author of Days of Distraction. It's about the loyalties we hold to relatives, to strangers, and to ourselves. And then I thought I would just try Eliza Clark's Body Parts. Another Eve Babitz. I have 3 of them. I'm just going to dip in and see if any of them. This is called Slow Days, Fast Company, The World, the Flesh, and LA. All right, that's it. I made it before my phone died. Yeah, I'll update you and let you know how things go. This isn't really a vlog, but I thought while I was out here after work, I would give an update on my reading out here with Suki and her walk around the yard. Hey, Took. Well, hi there. Okay, so I'm reading the Celia Fremlin that I didn't show in the library hall because it was a book that I actually ordered because, believe it or not, my very large library system didn't have this Celia Fremlin called Uncle Paul that I wanted. The cover is one of the best covers I've seen this year. I love it. And yeah, it's really kicked into gear. It's a really cool story. I'm just getting to the part where it might get a little creepy, so it's been really fun. I was supposed to start it in September, but here I am. I'm reading the Sylvia DeCampo short stories. I'm just getting into them. Weird, bizarre. They're all different. Really interesting writing. And then I read one of the Eve Babitz books, which is a shorter memoir called Slow Days, Fast Company. And each chapter is a little vignette of one of her adventures in LA. It's really cool voice. I really liked it. And then I started Mrs. S by Kay Patrick, and I don't know. It's got this staccato writing style. The jury is out on that one. What else? Oh, I'm reading The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And this is an epic. It's a family saga in Pottstown, PA. So more on that later. All I can think of for now. I'll give you an update. Back with an update. I think I'm going to the library at lunchtime this week because I'm through the bag of books that I last showed you. Some of them I didn't decide to get into, and some of them I've read. And I have, I think, 5 holds, and there's a few other books in transit, another 5 or 4. And I just don't want to pick up a clump of books like that. I've said in one of my other videos that I have lessened the number of books that I'm putting on hold because now I have this cool thing in our library database, which is called BiblioCommons. That's the software they're using, that allows you to put some books on a shelf for later, and so then they're always there looking at me so I don't forget them, and then I can put them on hold later. So that's really helped me to not put a hold on a book the minute I see it. So I'm trying to minimize and calibrate holds so I don't get 10 at a time. That way, all those other books in transit I can pick up next week because they hold holds for 7 days. Okay, so what I've been up to, I mentioned in my other video, or the other clip, that I've been reading Uncle Paul, even though today is August 24th, and I said I was going to start this in September, but look at this fake blood. I love this cover. This is going to be my favorite cover this whole year, I bet, or one of them. Welcome to the nightmare summer holiday. And the edges of the book are all beaten up. You can't see that as well as I can just because of the lighting. Britain's Patricia Highsmith. So I read a Celia Fremlin already. I think it was The Parasite People, and I really liked it. And this one was written, the grandmother of psycho-domestic noir. So The Parasite Person was published way after that. I don't think that in this book, her writing compares to Patricia Highsmith Because if you read The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith and you read this, there's going to be a distinct difference in the writing. And I'm going to say Patricia Highsmith is the better writer. I haven't read all of Celia Fremlin, so I don't know. I am liking this book. It's about 3 sisters. One of them is a stepsister. I think that part's a little murky. Meg is the one that's single, Isabel is married, and Mildred is the half-sister. And her husband is the mysterious Uncle Paul. And something's happened to him. He's spent some time in jail. That's not a spoiler, you know that from the beginning, but I won't go into details as to why he was in jail. And they all converge in this beautiful seaside to get away from the city. The way it says it, that Meg's sister is staying in like a caravan with her kids while her husband goes into the city, and she's really struggling with that. Mildred has a little cottage for 3 weeks, and Meg is kind of in between. And there's something weird about Mildred's husband, and we're not really quite sure what it is yet. I don't want to give away, as I said, I don't want to give away why he was in jail because you're going to know that right away. But I didn't read the flap or anything, so I found this out as I was reading. And the way that Celia establishes the whole story and the whole setup, to me, was just a little confusing at first. But that was fine, but I was confused for a while, but maybe that was just me and my attention span. There's been some little creepiness about this college that Mildred is renting, and there were just some like, is there somebody walking around outside? It's really fun. Nice and, like the perfect thing to take with you on vacation or when you're on a plane. Or then I did pick this book out of the 3 Eve Babitz books that I have from the library. I picked Slow Days, Fast Company, The World, The Flesh, and LA. It's short. It's written by Eve. I say that because one of the books that I have out is Hollywood's Eve, which is not written by. I loved this book. It's got an introduction by Matthew Spector, which I loved. And these are like little vignettes. And in each one, there's like an italicized section before the vignette starts. And it's Eve. She says in her own introduction or preface that she's writing to this boyfriend that she's broken up with or that she's trying to make jealous. All these italicized sections are speaking to this boyfriend. And it's funny. She starts off by saying, "This is a love story, and I apologize. It was inadvertent. But I want it clearly understood from the start that I don't expect it to turn out well. I'm not going to give you an although I'm wry and world-weary, me and Sam have found the answer together, which only we share, and you can't come in except to press your nose against the glass. It's bad luck for one thing." And it goes on and on. I love her voice. I love the atmosphere. This is the perfect summer book. Or in the wintertime when you just need a little bit of, I guess this is like 60s LA. I love it. And Eve Babitz is the granddaughter of Stravinsky. She went to Hollywood High, and she is like born and bred Los Angeles. And then it's like Joan Didion, who like she's bumping elbows with different people, and she's an artist and she's doing album covers, little artistic things here and there. And it's Joan Didion, I think that gets her first break doing these columns for different. I read some of the stories, not all of the stories, in the Silvina Ocampo collection of stories called Thus Were Their Faces. I have to say, I made some notes about this writing. She's an Argentinian writer. It says she lived a little in the shadow of her sister on the one hand and of her husband on the other. She was an extravagant woman when writing her stories, short and crystalline. She was perfect. So she's a short story writer, a poet, and an artist. These stories are wild, thoughtful, a lot about childhood, a lot about memory, a lot about religion. Some are surreal, a little mystical. They've got a bit of cruelty in them, straightforward prose. But then sometimes you're just all of a sudden in like a little touch of magic realism or mysticism you weren't expecting. But then some other stories are like straightforward. Heard about Silvina Ocampo on the podcast Unburied Books, and they are concentrating on NYRB book. I picked up The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store. I don't know why, because I'm not a family saga reader necessarily. I'm not drawn to those kinds of books. Maybe that's why I haven't read a Jonathan Franzen yet. Not to say that I won't, but I want to, because I have a feeling the writing is just really great. But a saga over a period of time, this isn't really a family saga as much as it's about people in the town of Pottstown, PA. And it's at an interesting time in U.S. history because it's in the 30s. I think it starts in 1936. And the town, like many other towns in the United States, but certainly in Pennsylvania, is made up of immigrants. So there is a community of Black people, of Jews, of European immigrants, is how they explain it. Other European immigrants from various countries. They all live in this section of Pottstown called Chicken Hill. And as time goes on, and some of the families do well in whatever their businesses are, there's a lot of commerce in these cities at the time because there are jobs that are keeping people there. And as people have businesses and they've been successful, they're able to move down into the town off of the hill. And this is the case for the Jewish couple. I think at least one of them is Bulgarian. Mosh, and Chona. And I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I know it. Ludlow. They ran the Heaven and Earth grocery store, but Mosh has a business that I'm forgetting what kind of business. Oh, he's running he is running a theater. And he does some interesting things with that theater that leads to his success. They're able to move out of the Chicken Hill neighborhood, but Chona doesn't want to. Her success has been where the Heaven and Earth grocery store is, so they stay in the neighborhood. And lots of things happen where they cross over with their neighbors who have different backgrounds than they do. And even though they keep respecting each other and their ways of living and their own customs, they will sometimes have to reach out to a different community, a different family from theirs for help. And sometimes the support that they give each other in the community is unspoken. Sometimes it's explicit and spoken. There's something that happens that causes a young someone's son to go to jail, and it's like the worst kind of juvenile place that you could imagine. And what do they do to try to save this boy? And it just goes on from there. Part of the story does end up in the 1970s because something happens, and there's right before the big flood that occurred in the area. I'm not doing this book justice, but just to say, I love the writing. I highly recommend this. If you're someone that does like this kind of book about families and over a period of time and lots of characters, this is going to be right up your alley. And I tried, but then ultimately didn't keep on going with this Mrs. S by Kay Patrick. I mean, boarding school novel. Right up my alley. There's something about the way that this book is written that didn't jive with me at the time. Mrs. S is a sensual and sensational novel that explores in stylish prose the mercurial nature of love and attraction, the transformative power of desire, and so on. An elite, all-girls English boarding school. I liked the very beginning of it, I have to say, but then it's like this, like I said in the other clip, like staccato sentences. I'm not invested in the story. I just feel like I'm reading and turning pages. Maybe if I kept on going. Tell me that it gets better. I don't know. So, I have one thing I wanted to show you that I discovered on this lower shelf, which is mostly like nonfiction and some books from like the master's program I was in. I don't pay too much attention to these books down here, but I just happened to be fiddling with the wires and I noticed this book and I was like, oh wait, what is that? It's called Too Much and Not the Mood by Durga Chew-Bose. Chew/Bose. Can't see it, but it's plain and simple. And I was like, where did I ever get this book? Where did this come from? Then I turn it over and it's from the Strand, which means I got it back the last time I was in New York City, which is 2019. We haven't gone back yet, but we're going to. It says on April 11th, 1931, Virginia Woolf ended her entry in A Writer's Diary with the words, "Too much and not the mood." She was describing how tired she was of correcting her own writing, of the cramming in and the cutting out to please readers, wondering if she had anything at all that was truly worth saying. The character of that sentiment, the attitude of it, inspired Durga Chew-Bose to collect her own unconventional work. The result is a lyrical and piercingly insightful cluster of essays. Meet prose, poetry about identity and culture. And then it says, informed by Maggie Nelson's Bluettes, Lydia Davis's short stories, and Vivian Gornick's exploration of interior life. And when I opened this, I could tell when I turned it that I've never even opened this book. What is wrong with me? Yeah, I'm opening it now. It's so cool. I started reading the first couple pages. She talks about this emoji on the phone, on our phones. I won't get into it now because I'm going to probably have a lot to say about this. Or maybe she's Canadian. She's comes from Montreal. If any of you know this author or you've read this, don't tell me anything about it. But just let me know if you're in the fan club. So yeah, I'm going to set this aside. I have some business travel, which is rare for me, but I'm going away just for a quick trip next week. So I'm looking for a couple books that I'll take with me, and I'll probably stick this in my backpack. I don't know, but why not? I will see you as I have come back from my library pickup. Hello. I'm in a different parking space than I normally am today because this part of Pittsburgh, Oakland, is back in action as far as all the colleges being back, all the college students being back. But it's actually busier than normal because I think a lot of college kids are coming in. So my normal parking spot was taken. But here I am. So I'm going to go through these quickly. I said I had 5 holds, but there were 8, which happens sometimes. And also this street has a lot of pedestrian traffic and my windows are down. So you're going to hear some of that. Anyway, okay. The one book, or one of the books that I knew was in, is Open Throat by Henry Hoke. I was looking forward to this after I listened to an interview of Henry Hoke on a podcast, which I don't do very often. I was just casting around for something. And this is a fictional tale about the mountain lion above Hollywood that is based on the actual mountain lion that existed in that area for a long time. I think it was called P22 or something, and it's written in a fragmentary way. A gay mountain lion is the character in this book, so we'll see. Oh, this one I wasn't expecting, called Lost on Me. This is written by Veronica Ramo. She's won a couple prizes. Her translations into Italian include works by, so she's also a translator. I think this is translated from the Italian. A bestseller in Italy. Lost on Me, an award winner and bestseller in Italy. It's an irreverent and hilarious Bildungsroman from one of the most celebrated young writers working today. Born into a family with an omnipresent mother who's devoted to her own anxiety, a father ruled by hygienic and architectural obsessions, and a precocious genius brother, Vero languishes in boredom in her childhood home. Spiky and clever, Vero guides us through her failed attempts at emancipation, her discovery of sex and fixations with unwitting men, and reality. And I knew this was coming in. The Details by Aya Genberg, translated by Kira Josephson. One of the finest examples of Swedish literature. It's about relationships, love, parents, children, about all of it. The little observations about being young and about growing up and about getting lost. Sounds right up my alley. This one I picked off the shelves because I thought I was only getting 5 holds. I wanted to try an Olivia Lang, and this is her fiction called Crudo. She had no idea what to do with love. She experienced it as invasion, as the prelude to loss and pain. She really didn't have a clue. Kathy is a writer. Kathy is getting married. It's the summer of 2017. She's a commitment-phobic artist. So, 3 stories so far about women going through things. 1 story so far about a gay mountain lion. What else is in here? Oh, yeah, this is the nonfiction. I'll talk about that in a second. What is this? Oh, The Springs of Affection, Stories of Dublin by Maeve Brennan. I don't know if I'll get to this now because it's short stories by Maeve Brennan, but it sounded good. And then this fiction I just heard about from Eric Carl Anderson as like a book that blew him away. Life with Me by Philippe Besson, translated by Molly Ringwald, the actor. This is it tells the story of an affair between two teenage boys in 1984 France. Just outside a hotel in Bordeaux, Philippe chances upon a young man who bears a striking resemblance to his first love. What follows is a look back at the relationship he's never forgotten, a hidden affair with a boy named Thomas during their last year of high school. He loved this. It's short, and I was excited to get to it. So I'm glad that my library had it. And then, because I've just finished Middlemarch, I saw this brand new book called The Marriage Question, George Eliot's Double Life by Claire Carlyle. In her mid-30s, Marian Evans transformed herself into George Eliot, an author celebrated for genius as soon as she published her debut novel. I didn't know, does that mean that her name really wasn't George Eliot? Oh, that's cool. During those years, she also found her life partner, George Lewes. After eloping to Berlin in 1854, they lived together for 24 years. Eliot asked people to call her Mrs. Lewes and dedicated each subsequent novel to her husband, although they couldn't legally marry because I think she was married to someone else. But I just thought I would try that. Looks interesting. I want to read more about George Eliot. I didn't know she had, that wasn't her real name, but I suspected, like, George. And then, I don't know about this one, it's called No Ordinary Assignment, a memoir by Jane Ferguson. She's covered every war front and humanitarian crisis of our time. She secured rare access to rebel-held Syria. She lived and worked in Kabul, and she grew up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. So, I don't know if it'll be the right time for me. So what do I take with me on my trip? It might be Crudo. It might be Mountain Lion. But thanks for hanging in there with me. I've actually done 2 library hauls in this video. The one I did last weekend and the one that I'm doing now. It's almost the weekend. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I'll update you after my business trip as to what I took, and I'll talk to you later.